So what I've done here is I've made up a Google spreadsheet, and I'll share out access to anyone who asks for it to get access to be able to get their own copy and mess with it and work out the math of what it looks like. This is about making a case and a comparison for our service Web 321, which is kind of an all-in-one solution for managing your website versus the DIY method or hiring a contractor or otherwise spending dollars. What Web 321 does is it takes all of the expenses associated with web design and keeping your website up and puts it into a single monthly package that you pay month after month in lieu of a big hit early or spending your own time in it and trying to make it work. So what I've done here is I've said let's look at the DIY approach, because if you go out there and ask somebody to design your website, it'll go anywhere from $100 up to $50,000, and you may end up with almost the same site between the two of them. It's just the weirdness of how pricing and positioning and talent is cooks down into what you get for your money. So let's look at what happens if you're to do it yourself. And what I've done here is I've worked on the idea that what if your wage, where you're doing this exercise, was $15 an hour, but what if the maximum was $60 an hour? And then in this column over here, column C, I've said, okay, well, what if instead it's just an average between the most I think you're going to spend for a given thing and the minimum you're going to spend for a given thing, and the median is kind of that, the three bears. It's the right size bear right in the middle. So first off, the question of learning web design. And if you go to Wix or Weebly or one of the other ones where they'll build a site for you, you still have to understand some of the basics of what a website is. A front page, a contact page, making sure your contact page is linked through to a way for them to actually get their message to you, as well as the finesse of making a website work, which is search engine optimization, keyword placement, user experience, user interface, mobile experience versus desktop, things for people who may have vision impairments and not be able to see a visual web page, and what you have to do to get past that, all those factors. So let's just say that you would say, well, I'm a $15 an hour person, so if I were to take a self-directed freebie course and spend only 12 hours on it, $180. Let's just say I'm a $60 an hour person, but some people may actually at their job make well over $60. Like you look at a physician or some specialists, they're going to be well above $100 per hour for their own time. And let's say it's an 80-hour course, so the meet you in the middle price for that one is $2,500 to accomplish that. So if you've got that already under your belt, web design, that wouldn't happen. The web design itself, I've said, well, let's just say you go through and you do a real simple page, a real simple site. You spend 6 hours all in at $15 an hour. Well, that's where you get to $90. But what if you're a more expensive talent and you're spending 75 hours to deliver your website? Then the graphic design step, where this is simply architecture and web design. Graphic design is about the images you put up, your color choices, getting your fonts to work, all the sort of visual impact pieces. And again, 6 hours versus just a fraction of that. So I've suggested that would be a quarter of 75 hours put onto the graphic setup. Initial content has got to be written. Like if you don't have written content for your website, or at least images, you don't have something to work with. So whether it's writing or scanning images or sourcing clip art or whatever it may be, there's this range here of sunk cost and sunk time. And I've medianed out that to $1,170 in effort. Again, that's the middle ground between $15 an hour, $60 an hour, 6 hours, and 37 and a half hours or a full week of getting your website right for content. Beyond that, there's these costs that you're going to encounter regardless of whether you do it yourself or not, and that's web hosting. So web hosting will run from $60 a year for very cheap services, which will go down a lot and give you a lot of grief, to $600 a year where it's very comfy, very good uptime, all that sort of stuff. If you want to source clip art, well, if you use clip art that's free, you may be restricted in how you can use that clip art, but you also may end up using the same clip art all your competitors use, And on one given day, I went through a slate of websites prospecting for work and found 4 different sites in 3 different industries use the same clip art. So you don't, if you want to look like everyone else's, you could go for free. But if you pay for clip art, it could run upwards for licensing and membership to different services, upwards of $500 a year to have that. Application licensing, if you go for Wix or Weebly or Squarespace or one of those things, they'll have a lot of stuff included as well as add-ons. If you go for WordPress, the better add-ons are better plugins cost money. Same thing with themes. Premium themes will cost money. So I've said that's going to run you in the $600 to $1,200 a year range for having those. Domain registration, we have to have a .com or .ca or .whatever. Most of them run in the $15 range or less. If you get a deal, it can be much less. Some of the domain name top-level suffixes can be a little more expensive, so I've budgeted for 50, but you're probably going to spend more like 15 in almost all cases. WordPress updates. In here, I've said, well, how much time are you going to put into a WordPress update? Well, you're going to put in maybe something like an hour a month for a year. So in a year, at your bottom rate, you're going to incur $180 in expenses. At your top, well, let's just say it's going to be 2 hours a month, and it's going to be at your higher rate. So in the middle price is at $810 a year. Website backups, well, you need to have a solution where you store and include your backups somewhere. Put them somewhere separate from your website, safe, and more important than safe when it goes in, but easy to get it back out and put it in place to replace a website that could be damaged, hacked, or somehow unusable and you're trying to get back to a working state. Website backups, services, and your sunk time into that will take anywhere from an hour a month in the work to get it ready, upwards to your high rate, it's still about an hour a month. There are services out there that will do this automatically for you, so you don't have to worry about it, but you have to still get those services going. And again, what if you tend to and add stuff to your website? Because your website is a living, growing thing. It should have new content. So if that's the case, what we're going to do is say, well, you're going to spend maybe just an hour a month at that low rate of $15 an hour, or maybe you're going to spend 2 hours a month. That's 2 hours a month of content is not much. Most people spend a lot more than that, but getting the content written and then getting it put up on the website, this covers off the putting up on the website piece of it. So the cost of the year, if you're in first year, you'd be looking at this totaling out to $1,485. If you were to be at the max, $13,825. The middle price for the total cost of ownership with all these things, if your initial design, keeping it going, putting in some new stuff, licensing, all that jazz, $7,600. Now, if you were to amortize that over 3 years, 3 years for the lowest rate, $3,900, $25,725 for the highest rate, and the meet you in the middle price is $14,000. So I've compared that against what we do at Web 321, where we say that month in, month out, from the initial onset of your engagement through your lifespan of your work with us, you pay $321 a month, and that includes, we already know web design, we'll do the web design, graphic design, we'll push in initial content for you through interviews and other stuff to get the right content for you. Handle web hosting, licensing for media, licensing for applications and themes, all the domain registration, updates, backups, pushing in new content, all that sort of stuff for $321 a month. And when you extrapolate it out, in your first year, you'd be spending $3,852. Over 3 years, you'd be spending $11,556. Stack that up next to the expensive rate, or even the middle rate, because the middle rate is fair median, 14,000 versus 11,000. So over 3 years, you'd save $3,200. At the very least, in your first year, you'd appreciate seeing $3,803 in savings. So that's the total cost of ownership of stacking up the website price for if you do it yourself versus the website price of if you gave it to us to manage over a course of 3 years, where all these things are handled for you. All you have to do is put in a support request to have things updated. You would get the website you wanted at the outset, and you have the right care and feeding.